Alright guys, welcome to another episode of Computer Applications. If you remember the last couple of times we've been looking at the header and how to get to that, right? We've been looking at line spacing and what that'll do for you and all the different formatting things that go along hand in hand with that. But today we're going to look at probably the two things that most people struggle with when they're doing computer applications. Namely what to do with tab stops and how to use indents. And let's look at indents first because that's usually the easier one to see. So just so that you can see, I'm going to highlight this paragraph. What indents are is they dictate where your text stops and ends for a paragraph. So if you look here, I can grab my right indent, which is here on the right hand side of the page, that triangle looking thing. If you grab it, you can slide it over, and you notice now my text stops at the 6-inch mark on my ruler here. Right? The same thing happens here on the left side, right? Your left triangle there at the bottom, click and drag it, right? Now my text starts at the 1-inch mark and ends at the 6-inch mark. Associated with this though is what we call first line indents and hanging indents. Right? Both of them are different. With your first line indent, that's the one that you're probably the most familiar with because that's what you do when you start a new paragraph for most essays and things that you write. And if you simply hit the tab key, right, you'll see a first line indent. But notice what actually happened in the computer. Right, here at the top, you've got that little rectangle box. It moved a 1/2 inch over. Right, that's your first line indent marker. So it tells you where your first line is going to start. And you can make it bigger if you want to, right? We could drag our first line indent out to 3 inches if we wanted to, right? Or you could drag it back over the left indent mark, and you can have it, do whatever it is that you want it to do, right? The next thing with the indents is what we call a hanging indent, and this is one that most people aren't too familiar with. But it does become useful for various different types of papers or essays and things that you type up. Because what a hanging indent does is it causes your first line to hang out over the paragraph, right? Here's my paragraph. My first line is hanging out over it. All right? So you've got your hanging indent, right? And you've got your first line indent. And all those are dictated by that top little rectangle. So you have those two things that you can play around with there. All right, the other one that people get super confused on is what we call a tab stop, and I'm going to go up here for that. With a tab stop, you click on the ruler, and you have 3 options that come up. You can see them there, right? You've got your left tab stop, your center tab stop, your right tab stop. Right? Like your alignment buttons up above, right? Left align, center align, right align, right? Your left tab stop lines up all the text on the left-hand side, center lines them up in the center, right lines it up on the right-hand side. Right? The way that you use them is you click on the ruler and you click which one you want. So let's say I want a left tab stop. Right? And I'm going to go ahead and drag it out to the 2-inch mark. The way a tab stop works is it'll stop whenever you hit the tab key. So if I hit the tab key now my text starts at the 2-inch mark, right? And you notice, right, my text is lined up on the left-hand side, right? The center tab stop, right, like I said, lines things up in the center. And you notice that my text automatically jumped, right? Google recognizes that there's a tab there. And when I put the tab stop in, it moves it to that stop mark, right? And you can see there, my title is lined up in the center of what's going on there. And the right-hand side, I mean, it works exactly the same, right? I could put a right tab stop in there, and it'll move over. Now, if you have too many tab stops, or if it doesn't go where you want it to, or you pick the wrong one, you just have to click and drag it off, right? Click on the tab stop, drag it off of the ruler. You don't have to go too far, right? And now that tab stop is gone. The other cool thing about tab stops is they stay when you hit return. So, if you're setting them all up, you hit, the enter key, go down to the next line, hit tab, Now you have a second center tab stop set already, and you'll notice, right, they're all lined up on top of each other. Right, everything is centered therein. All right, the only thing that you have to be careful of when you're doing this is if you have multiple tab stops set in different locations. So let's say, I'm going along in my document and I have another tab stop down here and another one down here, and let's say that you want to just highlight them all and grab your tab stops and move them. Well, that's going to be a problem, right? First off, because now they're not up here anymore. Right? But also, if you would get them, right, and you have them at different locations, or you try to add one later on, Google has too much stuff that it can process, and it can't handle it all. All right, so when you're working with tab stops, the thing that you have to keep in mind is to make sure that everything is consistent and that you do them as you need them. So don't type up your whole paper and then go back and try to add in all the tab stops that you need. All right, don't do that because it's going to break it. But add them as you're going along. Think about what you're going to do as you're doing it, and you shouldn't have any problem with it at all. All right, this is probably the first one I think that I'm going to get a lot of questions on. So make sure that that you're asking questions, asking me, asking your peers, and getting help with that if you get stuck. All right, or go back and review this video, and you'll be good to go. Along with tab stops, there's one other skill I want to add, and it's really straightforward. Right? We've looked at headers and footers and the different things that you can add there, but I'd be willing to bet that most of your teachers, or as you're doing papers and projects, that you're going to want to add page numbers to them. Google has a real easy way to do that. If you go to the Insert menu, you can come down here to Page Number, right? Insert menu, Page Number. And you notice you've got 4 different ways that you can add page numbers to your document. Right, the first one is you can add it to the header. Right? You can also add it to your footer. You can have a different first page. So if you have a title page, right, you can start your numbering on the second page, and you can start the numbering on the second page in your footer. Now, the thing that I find really fantastic about this, I'm going to go ahead and add one under my header. You'll notice that it starts left aligned. But let's say that you have a teacher who wants it right aligned. Just click the right alignment button and you're good to go there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn you loose and let you get started.